Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura and welcome to the new year. This new year, I want to start off with something new and exciting. Okay, it might not be that exciting, but I do want to start off with new placemats. And this year, I want to do something elegant and classy. Every year, I like to make them out of fun fabrics, something that makes me laugh and smile. But this year, I want to make them very elegant. My husband and I love to entertain. He loves to cook. I love to set a beautiful table. And to set a nice table, you do not have to have expensive things. This is just a plain red napkin, and the dishes are just a simple white with a gold and black trim. They look expensive, but I can assure you they are not. But they can go elegant. They can also be made very fun. So for this year, I want to turn this into something a little bit more elegant. So I have a black fabric, and this black print fabric I've had for a very long time. So it's time I use it. I have some red and some basic black. I'm going to make some placemats out of these. I'm going to make 4 placemats because I only have 4 place settings. And I'm going to use these pre-made forms. And these placemat shapes are made out of a sewable foam. So I could take my Basel foam and cut it to the shape I want, but since they're already cut out for me, this is the shape I'm going to use. It's going to make my placemats go together fast and easy, and they're fusible, which is going to make it even quicker. So I have 4 of these shapes, and what I want to do is put my print on the back and put my print on the front. The back fabric I'm going to have bigger than the placemats. The inside fabric, I'm going to have it just come within this little measurement because I will be putting a border on it. And I want the inside piece of that fabric to be able to sit inside of those little points because I'm going to be using those little points to sew with. So in order not to get the fusible on my iron, I did use just a piece of parchment and I pressed right over top of that parchment paper. What I want to do is do some quilting lines and quilt these layers together. Now of course you can quilt this any way you want to quilt it, but I did make sure that I quilted right off of this foam and onto this back fabric. This is going to be covered, but I do want it quilted all the way, even in the back. I do want to trim it now, so I have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we want to take any ruler that we can and measure over a 1/4 inch and trim. I do like to use an add a 1/4 ruler. You probably have seen me use this quite often. And what it is a ruler with a 1/4 inch lip. So I'm going to be able to put that foam right against that lip. So that lip really does hold. And now I can trim. I'm not turning that corner. I'm just adding that 1/4 inch, making that corner square. I'm going to add a trim to the back that's going to fold over to the front, and it's going to cover all of this edge. So we just need to know how much fabric we need. I'm going to start with a 2.5 inch strip, and I'm going to use my black. The strips that I cut at 2.5 inches are going to need to fit the long sides and the short sides, and they can be longer. With that 2.5 inches, I did press over a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When it's going to be finished, that 1/4 inch is going to fit underneath, and it's going to give it a nice finish. So this piece is going to go along the back, so that seam is sitting up at the top. So the finished side is on the back. And I'm going to do that for all of the strips. But I do like to have the short strips on first, and you can see they are a lot longer. And then the long strips on each side. So they're going to overlap, but each of these seams are sticking up. Those raw edges are going to match that seam that I cut. I want to stitch around this edge. So I'm not stitching on the foam. I'm going to go right beside the foam. And I'm going to go all the way around. So I've stitched right along the edge of that foam. Now I'm going to be able to trim this down. The next thing we need to do is put a little snip right to the edge of that stitching. We're not going into those threads, just right up to them. And we need to do that to every one of these little points. Now we're just going to take that back fabric and fold it over to the front. We're going to be able to push out all of those curves. So the back is going to have this beautiful curve shape, and we're going to have a border on the right side. So now we have that pressed seam going inside, and if you want to end right here, all you will need to do is top stitch this border down. So we end up with a border and the binding all done at the same time. Now I want a little peekaboo of red. So I'm going to cut my red into 1-inch strips and press them in half. So to put these little red strips in, I do want that fold side out. And I'm just tucking it underneath. So I just want that little peekaboo to show through. If you want, you can put a little glue just to hold that. And I'm going to do the 2 long sides first. So those are just placed in, and now I'm going to do these sides. But I do want the red to stop right at these corners, and I do want them to look like I've mitered them. But I don't want to do the work. So I've taken this piece, it's pressed in half, and I'm just going to take that one corner and fold it on a 45-degree angle. A little glue always helps. So that gives me that 45-degree angle. So now I can slip that in and match it right up to that corner. It looks like I've mitered it, but I really haven't. I've just glued it. When I come to the next side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to find that point and then fold that over. And I can trim off that extra. And a little glue so it doesn't move. And match up that corner. So when you look close, it does look like I've mitered it, but it's just tucked up inside. And I don't mind just adding a little bit of glue on the top just to hold that in. Once I've glued that all in place, I'm going to take it to the iron and press, put a few security pins in there, and then we're going to top stitch around that outside. So it's going to be right along the edge of the black and all the way around the scalloped edge. The last thing I need to do is just close off these little seams. So I'll do a little hand stitch so you don't see the stitching, but you could just stitch them down with the machine. So we can see that little fold in the corner. I've top stitched all the way around that edge and right around those curves. So those corners have a nice look, and we're done. The back is entirely quilted because we started off of the foam and stitched through, coming off again. There was no hand binding on it, and we just stitched around that scalloped edge, so the foam actually made it easy to pull this border over. So this gives us a nice, elegant look. I have the red accent to my napkins, and if this side gets dirtied, it still looks nice from the other side. The balsa foam is 100% polyester, so we know it's going to stand up to many washings. So we're going to be able to get a lot of use out of this. Now we can add any fabrics that we want, so we could do them seasonally to match our dishes, and we don't need to add that little red peekaboo border. Just that scallop border alone is very pretty. And it's nice that it's reversible. You can get this craft pack for the placemats at many craft and hobby stores, even some quilting stores. It's fun to use and it works up quite quickly. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy, and I want to wish you and yours a wonderful New Year's. May this New Year's be amazing. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.